All right, everyone. Good day. Welcome to another episode of the Single Source, the product data podcast by PIMVendors.com. I'm Stefan Spijkers. I'm the co-founder of PIMVendors.com. And today we're going to discuss product data, data and AI, of course. Data is the foundation of AI, and it is something we see many teams, that rush headlong into AI projects, building cool stuff, fancy stuff on the output side, on the publication part, without actually fixing the foundation layer on which all that fancy AI stuff is actually being built. We'll go into these problems and challenges and solutions with our panel today. We have two guests, Chris, my co-founder, and Frank, who will introduce themselves shortly. But before that, just some quick housekeeping. We're recording this session. It's a live session. So you can ask questions in the sidebar if you're joining us live on YouTube or LinkedIn. So just drop them there and we'll weave those into the conversation. And of course, if you want to see more episodes and see other guests, please feel free to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. That could be YouTube, that could be Spotify, that could be Apple Podcasts. Just follow us there and leave us a review. Now, to our guests. Today, I'm joined by Chris. Chris, could you do a quick introduction and then move on to Frank?
Well, as Stefan said, co-founder of PIMVendors. We started PIMVendors 6 years ago. We have an overview of the market. I'm working in the e-com market, closely related to PIM, of course. More than 25 years. I've seen quite a lot of PIM solutions, quite a bit of developments within the PIM world, and nowadays, of course, AI is a big step into this issue. I think there is still a lot to be discovered and a lot of things going on. So I'm curious what's going to happen, and we're following it really step by step. What's going on there?
Cool. Frank, could you do a quick introduction?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Frank Weber. I'm the managing partner of Into Data. We are a consultancy company that help customers with their data management challenges, thinking about data engineering, data analytics, AI, but also PIM, master data management. And I'm very happy to be here, guys. Looking forward to this talk.
All right. Well, we discussed sort of the problem space that we see, right? I think a lot of people spend a lot of time, and I think not surprisingly so, at all the new models that are being launched every day almost. We see a lot of movement in the open source and open weight world, where you have the Chinese models launching, I would say, new iterations and new distillations and new quantifications every other day. But I think Claude just released Claude Opus 4.7 yesterday. That's recording on Friday, April 17th. And we have, of course, OPEC Codex by ChatGPT that was launched quite recently. It is an arms race, but it takes away a lot of oxygen in the public discussion because yes, there's differences and nuances in all the different models, but what we see in practice with our customers and with all the enterprise AI pilots that we see, well, let's say not delivering the return on investment that was expected, is that they fail because the underlying data is, fragmented, not clean, contradictory, there's duplicates. In general, it's just unreliable. And it is a bit of a, we keep repeating ourselves in a way, but low quality data is still in 2026, even with AI, low quality of output at the end, no matter how fancy the model is that you're throwing at it. We're going to discuss a few main topics today, but I'm just curious, Frank, if you recognize that, and if you maybe have some customer cases to share in this regard.
Yes, definitely. And it's not only AI. That this has been a story that has been going on for maybe as long as I'm in IT, and keep coming back every time. And now AI just, I don't know, enhanced it, made it more visible maybe for a lot of people. But especially when you talk about garbage in, garbage out, the data quality. We've been helping customers with data quality 10 years ago, trying to fix it and building those pipelines for them to make it repeatable as well. And it's always a hard thing, I think, for customers, because they know they should do it, but somehow it's seen as a yeah, I don't how do I phrase it, as a more as a burden than a helpful solution,
Yeah.
than a helpful outcome.
But then
Yeah.
again,
How do you turn that conversation from a sort of a costly thing to do to cleanse your data to, well, it's actually an investment in the future? Have you seen that conversation shift? I think, Chris, when we're looking at our customers and the conversations we're having, that there does seem to be a shift happening in the world right now, where the amount of attention and money and consultancy being called for around master data management and product data management, product information management, it does seem to have increased a lot in the past few
it does.
years,
But on the
months.
it does, but on the other hand, it's still actually not really on top of mind of management, to be honest. It costs a lot of money to maintain these rules, the context, the structure, the governance, and this money will only be spent when they feel pain. And so it's a reactive way of working instead of really proactive, having a plan to change this and to have this in place. That's actually what I see. And reactive also means that you have to be really quick in finding the right solutions, because there is something going on which needs to be fixed.
Yeah. In that sense, nothing new, right? As Frank said, that was the case probably 10, 20 years ago as well. The business hasn't changed in that regard. But if probably there are some, maybe not, well, hopefully there's management listening in and thinking, hey, I want to be the visionary AI leader, but maybe you want to convince your management to spend more time and spend more, invest more in AI. When we look at that data readiness and data readiness for AI, I think what we see, and if you want to like really get the return on investment from the fancy AI theater part, right? Everyone is doing AI, but you need to have clean data. You need to have your data layer AI ready. I think what we need to do is spend more time there on how to get to that clean foundation. As if you want to move forward, or if you want to really unlock all that value, it is table stakes basically. What do you see when you're involved or working with customers, Frank, in this regard? Like, do you see this? Do the customers see this as a problem that they need to clean their data, and are they ready to start cleansing it?
I guess yes and no, but if you want to start using AI and you want to do it correct, then you need to go through certain steps, and we're reading it everywhere. Setting up a simple demo is done in a day, and you've got something working. But then once you need to bring it to production, make it scalable, make it durable, that's where still the hard part works, and is. And there are several ways of thinking, but you need to go through at least 4 layers, at least, in a conceptual way. So your data is at the bottom, then your semantic layer, then you get an orchestration layer, and on top it is your agentic layer, Let's put it that way. And there's different models out there that can help you with it. But if again, it's the same here as it's been in years. If that bottom layer, the data layer, isn't in place, then the rest, it's the analogy we always use is building the house,
And then
the pipelines.
then the focus, AI focus, is actually on the output, whereas the focus for AI can also should start with the input,
Yeah,
should start with the quality of the data, and also AI can help with that, but that's not really visible. That's not really really directly going to the outside. So that's not really for most people in the organization. It's hidden. It's not very fancy, and they don't put a lot of attention to this. But that's really where it starts, and that's also what we see. You have to go really deep down in the cellar to find where the root cause is of your issue to get good output.
yeah.
Yeah.
It started with simple. It started with prompting. Your response was as good as your prompt, and the same as
Mhm.
it is now, as it's evolving. The data that you feed it, even the skills you build in Claude or whatever, the instructions you give it determine how good your skill is going to be. So everything is in the data layer that you describe, and how well it's done. And if it's missing data, or then it will make it up. That's where the hallucinations come from. Them. Oh, I don't have it. Okay, then let's think of something that can help us.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting to see that development as well, right? So where it used to be, it is all about the prompt, to now it is much more about the structure of the house, basically, as you already described, where you have the data foundation, but there's the different layers on top, and there's also the prompt. But there's much more layers, yeah, than previously, or maybe they were there but we didn't apply them in the AI context. I think that is actually more of the case. Maybe when we look back, I don't hear people talk about hallucinations anymore. Is that something that the industry has solved? Did we solve that as an industry, or is it something you still see in practice?
Is it maybe we are used to it now? I still think you need to check everything you get back from it. Validate it. Make sure that you have a source that you can check for most of the things. I read an example, and is it a hallucination? I don't know, but somebody asked it, can you give me the revenue of the last quarter? And it gave back a figure. And the next day, somebody else answered the prompt, can you give me the revenue for the last quarter or whatever? And they got a different number back. So is it a hallucination, or is it how the system works in the background and then figures out how to gather the data in that area? So I think you
So,
still need to check.
but it also comes back to the definition of what you want, the definition of what you want, and how things are constructed, how things work together. When you say revenue, okay, there are different ways of calculation, and you need to say, okay, I want this, and it must be calculated this way. You have to take this into account and discard these figures, because otherwise the system doesn't know what to look for, and you can have different ways of calculating. And so it's structure, it's context, it's governance. Who is really involved in this, and who is really responsible for the quality, and because it doesn't come. You have to do something for this. It's not just there.
Yeah. But is it, I mean, so we got used to hallucinations maybe, but in a way that is not how you should approach your foundational product data, right? That should be, yes, you can use AI to cleanse that and enrich that, but it needs to be right? We don't, yeah, if you have all the attributes filled in by synthetic data, by AI, but it's the wrong data, then you're still basically setting yourselves up for failure. So how do you make sure that the output of the AI process, or maybe the enrichment process in which you use AI, or the data cleansing and onboarding process in which you use AI, how do you make sure that you don't get, well, maybe that is, again, the low quality in means low quality out. If you put in a low quality AI enrichment process on top, you get low quality synthetic data out. How do you prevent that from happening, that you go through this whole AI process, this AI cleansing process? Because yeah, you can use AI to help get to that good quality data foundation if you do it right. How do you prevent customers from making mistakes, or how do you set this up in a way that you don't make many mistakes?
I guess it's not a one-off. It's not something, okay, now we build something and then we run it, and then you for everything you keep repeating it, and it learns from itself as well. So you have a reference and a repeat and repeat and learn. So we do it, we see what was the outcome. Okay, some of them was really good, others was not, and then you try and improve it for the next run and next run. The data cleansing is also not a one-off. It is what we normally see is when you start at a project, for instance, a migration project, they're moving from ERP-A to ERP-B, and you need to move over the data. So that's normally one of those starts in the project where, okay, now we're moving and we want to start really with good and clean data, and then they go through the whole process of enriching and profiling, cleansing their data. But it doesn't stop after that. You need, from the beginning, you need to make it a continuous process if it's feasible. So that people will enter anything in a system if it's allowed.
It doesn't stop with cleaning, vacuum cleaning the house once, but you have to do this repeatedly. And what I always see is that a lot of companies, they're just working and just selling and things like that. But when you talk about the data dictionary, so the definition of data, then it's suddenly very quiet, because I think that's the foundation, the data dictionary, and it may be old-fashioned, but that's where it all starts. And then, Frank, what you said, people can enter everything in the system. When you have a good definition, good data dictionary, you can prevent them from entering everything in the system. You can really prevent them entering wrong data. And is it 100% fixed? No, it's not, because there are always corners where you forget something, or the context changes during time. So it's not 100% fixed for the future. You have to maintain this.
And people are very smart in finding loopholes somewhere in systems.
Yeah. I mean, that is a great way into the next sort of issue that we often see at clients, is sort of the 10 versions of the truth, right? So people find ways to work around processes by creating a local spreadsheet download that they use to then upload to another channel that is not supported in a direct integration. And suddenly you have two additional versions of your product data truth or your data truth. And if you don't have that process in place or that structure in place, you have 3, 4, 5, 10 versions of your product data living in your organization from the different tools in which they are, right? So there might be one version that is outdated in your ERP. There might be one version that is in your PIM. That might be the most recent version. But then your app has a different version. There's a print version, which is out of date at the moment. It is printed, but it is good to base it on the most recent data. You have your website. There's maybe translations and different versions of that product data on different languages of your website or your e-commerce store. How do you make sure that all that data is in sync across all those different layers? Like, you need to have that single foundation, and you need to have a clean foundation, but maybe you have that clean foundation now with your data dictionary. Now, how do you make sure that that clean data is synchronized across the whole organization?
Yeah, there's multiple ways to that. I'm always hoping that at least the customers have some kind of integration going between systems, applications, to make sure at least the data is moved. And again, the rules that each company determines can be different. They can have a PIM and say, okay, within the PIM, the attributes for the product, but for our ERP, and you guys know probably better than I do on that, but for the ERP, I also need these and these attributes, but I don't want them in my PIM because they're ERP related. So we have somebody who alters those or updates those in the ERP, maybe different again on the website. But these rules need to be clear for everybody within the organization. So what lives where, and that needs to be clear. And then you also know how your data is flowing, because that means that if something is updated within the PIM, then it needs to flow to these and these systems. And maybe if something is updated in the ERP, then it needs to go to the and these systems.
And you need to have the system of record of and then the confusion is very often, okay, I have this product in PIM, that's the system of record, but it's just for a part of the attributes which should be in PIM, and other parts of the attributes will be maintained in ERP because they are much more related to the transactional part of the organization. So that's one thing, but what I quite often see is that there is no automated connection between solutions. So we have a website. It's new in the company because we are B2B. We never did this before. So what we do, we export something in an Excel sheet and then import it in the website. And someone is changing something in between. It's never been brought back to the PIM or to the ERP. There you go. I mean, that's common practice.
Yeah, we see that too often, and in a way, like that is how it goes, right? People are creative in finding ways that around the process, right, around the existing process.
But when you want to do business and you want to speed up, and you have this website framework there, and you can start selling. Once you have to wait for IT to make a connection in between those systems, you're 3 months down the road. That's not where a commercial person is waiting for. He wants to act now. So that's how it works.
And how do you balance this? Because this is I mean, AI is not going to solve this trade-off. Maybe it's going to shorten that time. Let's hope so. But how do you balance the trade-off between sort of moving fast and breaking things in a sense? Like, how do you keep that progress without setting yourselves up for failure in the end? How do you balance that?
Yeah, I think one important thing is that a lot of many times I see business and IT are separated. They have to walk together on this road to keep synchronized, and then you can start finding a way doing things together. Whereas when marketing or business is having an idea and just running, and then they say, okay, we need this now, or actually yesterday. Yeah, there's a conflict. So you need to walk together on this road. And it's not a guarantee that it's going correct, but temporary solutions never exist. They always become the standard. So be very careful with that.
Integration is hard. It is, it is, and it's always difficult, and there's always a lot of business rules involved in it as well. Transformations. You might have a field in one system, but you need to translate it to a different value or something in another system. And especially now, also what we see now, what my colleague Teun also talked about, the consumer is changing. So we're going also to hopefully an assistant that knows that I like blue polo shirts, so I send him out and he's gonna look for the best deal on a blue polo shirt. But that needs a different kind of way, because what kind of instructions does he have, and how is he gonna find that best blue polo shirt? So the data that is behind there needs to be really well, so the quality needs well, but it needs also to be integrated well, so that it can be used in that area. If you have your integration in order, I think companies that have that will have a really good basis also for that kind of new type of consumer, the agentic consumer, to be able to service that, because you will be able to get your data out there faster, but also the integration has your business rules, but it also has your context of your systems in there. So I has an ID in system A means number in system B, and then it can normally a human can make that connection itself. Oh, I'm looking at my CRM, I see an account ID, and I know that's an address book number in my ERP, and it can make that link. AI cannot make that link unless you tell them that. And if your integration is there and you have a code base that is there, then you have that context, and you can make that link for them, and you can give that to your AI, so it can figure out the connections between your systems as well, and that can help again with getting all the right connections and right data in there.
Yeah, but then, yeah, so AI can help you build those connections and keep things in sync. I still think here there's a balance as well, right? So AI is, I think, a great fixer of things, but it's also a token-wise a costly fixer. If you can have an API that just works, then that is much more scalable. So I think still we need to have that depth between IT building something that is scalable and works in the future, but then maybe for the sort of entrepreneurial experiment, the project by the sales manager who just wants to open a new channel, maybe that's a web shop, maybe that's an experiment he's running with something, that he or she can just do that with an AI layer in between. And that AI layer needs to be supported by your architecture, right? So how do you get that MCP server in, basically? Where does that live within your IT architecture? I do think that we see some product data solutions, some PIMs, some MDMs that are front runners in this.
Sure, there are front runners, and there are also PIM solutions who, well, every PIM solution, we lost Frank.
We lost Frank, yeah. Well, he'll be back.
But we will be back. Every PIM solution nowadays is working with AI, because if they don't, they're out of business, because customers demand that they can work with AI. The the depth and the technical part of this, they differ quite a lot. What you see is that the more modern PIM solutions, they are more flexible to integrate this in their solutions, whereas the systems which are on an older code base, they have more problems with integrating. And what you see there is that they are more prompt based with their solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is true that you see this shift happening, right? So when a solution was headless or was front runner when it came to sort of the headless availability of different features, having those APIs made available, they usually are also the ones that are the first with making that product data available, making that data available for AI using MCP. And we have Frank back, that's good. They're also the ones that are front runners when it comes to making that data available as an MCP. And that allows for much better, much easier distribution of that product data in 2026 when you have these different interactions. The traditional channels like ecom, like technical data sheets, your website, maybe an app, and the new agentic layers like agentic commerce or just generative engine optimization, where you want your content, your product data to be found. Being able to offer that directly in the PIM through the PIM is, I think, a very interesting development.
Sure.
Now, what I think is something that is mentioned already by Chris, where he had the analogy of you don't buy a vacuum and expect the house to be clean every week. I think with a robot vacuum, that is something that is starting to change, Chris. But still, having clean data is not just something that just happens to you, right? It is not a project that just you run once and then you forget, right? So a one-off cleansing project, I still think that we see this a lot with customers. I mean, they go from one system to another. There's a digital transformation project happening. You move data, product data from one system to the other. In that process, you think, okay, let's cleanse that and bring that to another level of quality, another level of cleansing, enrichment maybe in that same step. But then you do that once and you do not embed that in a scalable process. And what we see is that, well, within 6 months, 12 months, your quality starts to degrade, especially maybe in the B2C context, but even in the B2B context. I'm not sure, Chris, how do you see that degradation?
I think there needs to be a lot of orchestration within a company, and people need to be responsible. You need to have stewards for the data to keep things going, and it should be in the DNA of your organization. It's not just one person being responsible. So the organization needs to be ready and made ready for this. So it's a way of working, and it starts, of course, starts always with one department, and then you need really people who are advocates in this field to be able to spread it in the organization. So there are people needed at the base of the organization, but also management needs to support this. If they don't, it's you cannot organize this. So that's very important as well.
Yeah, it needs to be embedded, and it doesn't need to be just embedded in the architecture. It doesn't need to be embedded only in the processes. It needs to be embedded in the team and in the governance and the people as well. And there needs to be a role dedicated to this, or a responsibility more.
Yeah, and not just responsible, but just also with enthusiasm steering the company on this.
The vision, is
Clear
that something you can still
vision
say? Yeah.
and a vision is important, and also setting clear goals and showing successes with it. I mean, when you don't have success with it, it's well 2 months and then it's over. You need really to show success really short time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is you need to have a short time to value. I think also because what we described in the beginning of this session, where this is not high on the roadmap for management, so timelines and attention spans are short. But I think also for the stakeholders in the business, where they also, yeah, data cleansing is not the most fun, or data quality is not the most fun subject. So they also have the day-to-day operations that they need to run and the fires that they need to put out. And getting to, making this small enough so you can get to results quickly is, I think, very important. But then use that to scale. And I think the elements that you need is, in a way, you need to have that governance set up. You need to have that responsibility set up. I think having a dashboard where you can track, or KPIs where you can track that data quality, is, I think, just as important. And I think what we often see is that people try to fix data quality problems at the back end, right? So the operational teams, the copywriters for the web shop, or the warehouse team that gets the wrong data from the source channels, they are fixing the problems with product data. But you need to move that to earlier in the chain, right? You need to make sure that those mistakes or those issues are captured much earlier, and not just captured, but even fixed.
And you have fixers in the organization. Every organization has fixers, but that's fine. That's good. But you need to solve this in a structural way. So that's the point. If you don't fix this in a structural way, it always needs to be fixed. So you have to go back to the foundation.
I do think that some people get a lot of, I would say, validation from being the fixer, right? It is something, uh, just I think from a human perspective, you get the dopamine rush if you fix another big issue. But I think taking one step back and actually taking the whole chain from onboarding, enrichment to publication in account, and not just fixing things at the publication part, but moving that problem further upstream, maybe even outside of your own organization, and putting that responsibility at your suppliers, or maybe a shared data pool that you set up with the industry. I think that's where you should actually invest your time in, even though it is so difficult to take yourself out of that firefighting and actually fix the root cause, and not just the problems that you see on the front end.
The fixers are mostly quiet people who doing their job, and you don't hear about. But going back to the fundamentals and say, okay, we need input from GS1 or another data pool. That's something which takes also some investment, and you need to have the awareness that these things can fix your problem, and I think they can, but it takes an investment.
Yeah. Frank, we're discussing sort of
Yeah,
the,
sorry. We had about it. I should have bought a Mac, but that's suddenly my
noise.
Windows just sent. There's your update. Your camera is not working. No longer. You need to reboot. I'm like, wow, thank you. So sorry
No
about that.
worries. No, we were discussing data quality, of course, but also how it degrades over time, right? Have you seen this at customer projects where they approach this as a one-time fix, right? And instead of trying to fix this as a process, do you maybe have any practical examples or customer cases in this space?
Yes, as I said earlier, when there's a clear starting point, migration or whatever, then they do it, and then afterwards But we also had a customer where they made it a continuous process. So they made sure there was a pipeline that every time it went through that pipeline and to check the data and profile the data, and also had the write back option in the end so we set it up from the start as a migration, but then built a pipeline so that it could run over the existing platforms as well, and then if needed also made it a write back option in there, so you could keep it in that. And I heard you talking about fixing it at the source, which is always the best option, but unfortunately not always possible. Sometimes I've worked for large American companies that have such a segregation of duties that sometimes the European people they have access to only a limited part, and they can't do anything on it. So they need to go again where we talked about. You need to go to IT or somebody else and then ask to change it, and then 4 weeks later still nothing has happened. So then people get creative and they're gonna say, okay, then I'll fix it on my side and do it differently. And that is what you start being practical because you need to work with the system. But the ideal thing would be to make it a continuous pipeline, incorporate it in your processes.
It would be, but how do you convince? So I think everyone sort of agrees that this is important, right? But I also feel that when we work with clients, they really don't want to touch that cesspool that is data quality because they're afraid of what they might see. So they keep that door closed, right? It's somewhere in the basement. It smells, but let's just keep the door closed, right? So how do you prevent that reaction where, okay, we'll open it a bit, we'll take something out of the basement, we'll clean that, but that's it, right? And then we just keep the door closed again. How do you make sure that there is a process of excavation being set up?
I guess also maybe you don't need to do everything at once. So try to find out what are your 10 most important data elements. What are your key data elements? Let's start with those. Let's start small and work from there and make sure those are correct, and then move on. Okay, what are the next best, and make it in small batches, but that you keep on doing it in smaller, instead of trying to fix everything at once and doing all the attributes there, because then it becomes a really long and painful process. And of course it won't be perfect at the first time, but at least you know that for these data elements, and you've written them down in your data dictionary, data catalog, and you know what the rules are, and start with those, and then it's documented, you have your process in place, and it's easier to start with.
And then it's a repeatable process.
Exactly, because then you know how it works, and then you can do that on the product domain, but then you can also do it on the customer domain or in any way. And from our perspective, what we always try is, when we work with customers, okay, who's your data champion? There's always somebody in your company that knows everything about your products, or everything about your customers, or get that person involved. Of course, always get management involved, but get that person involved and build on from there. Take small steps and try to build on those from there.
Yeah, that is maybe Chris, do you have any advice for people who want to open that basement and or maybe a bit held back by the things that they might find there?
Yeah, I think well, Frank already said it. Start small. That's really important. And actually, we're talking more about master data, about one version of the truth, golden record, these kind of things. But they are technical terms. You need to make it more in the understanding. Okay, what are we talking about? What is the product? How are we calling this product in system A, in system B, in system C? And are we talking about the same? Okay, maybe not. Okay, then we have to find out and take some examples from your portfolio and make a small project out of this and show the organization, show the people what the effect is when you're talking about wrong people. Okay, maybe a wrong product is delivered to your customer. Then you got a return. Why did it happen? Yeah, because we didn't talk about the same product. Okay, yeah. What's the reason we didn't talk about the same product? Okay, we didn't match the IDs, or we didn't match, or we didn't have the right information about measurements or things like that.
Yeah. And if we look at sort of when we tie this back to AI again, right? So you need to have that foundation in place. There is this basement that you need to open up slowly, step by step, start implementing that process, bring in the right tools. How would you prevent that automatic reflexive purchase the AI tool now, start applying it, without actually fixing the foundation underneath? Like, how do you start that conversation?
I get it's the same way there as well. I think when you start with AI, first make sure there is a business use case. Is there somewhere in a process that we can improve via AI, and is it gonna deliver us value, money, or whatever there is? Because if it's not, sometimes people think, hey, we need AI, but it could be just an automation problem or whatever. So make sure that when you start, it's gonna deliver value for you. So when we try and start with customers and get that discussion going, one of the things we check, okay, is there a certain return on investment for you when we start this process? Can we quantify it?
Yeah. So it's really like, okay, we understand. Don't use AI as an excuse to just do something, but really have that vision in place. Use AI to get to that vision, and then work your way down the different layers and the different stacks to get to the data foundation. Start fixing that foundation at a small place with the right stakeholders and the right processes in place, and then scale from that foundation that you then have fixed, and not just a one-off fix, but actually a procedural fix with the right people and the right processes involved, and then start building the rest of the house from that foundation.
Yeah, and again, let's start small. Start with one use case that you can pinpoint on. Okay, this is going to deliver value for me, but it might also be reasonably simple to implement. And start with that, and don't also wait till it's 100% complete or 100% perfect. But again, build it, try it, and then keep on improving it slowly. Just start also a bit experimenting with it. And the best thing is sometimes to do it internally first before you bring it to the outside, to the customer, or if it's, but it's a different kind of thing what your company has and different use cases. I talked about on the Data Summit X for Lobster on my use case where there was an order automation, which was a AI workflow. It's more a process kind of thing. Customer receives emails with where order information is there, and instead of people typing those orders in, we build a process where an LLM could could read the orders and give it the right context. So and create the orders in the ERP. And also, we started there with the human in the loop. So if the confidence of the LLM wasn't high enough, it parked it, and still somebody needs to look at it to see. But then a customer service representative could check it. If it was okay, it could still be automatically processed. If not, it could be changed. But your system can learn from that, because those decisions are then kept, and next time it sees, oh wait, this was the email I got, this was the actual result. So next time I do it, these are my predictions that I make on that.
So actually,
yeah.
Building trust is really, really important.
Yeah.
You want to establish this.
Yeah.
So okay, when we look back to this age, right, this transformation happening in real time, I think in a way it is just a repetition of what we have been seeing and saying for the past 20 years, maybe in IT. But maybe it's different in this case, because AI is in this phase really built on your product data quality and your data layer. And we do see a difference in, I think, urgency when we look at our customers and the projects that we're doing right now. There is a real urgency to get that foundation of product data, of data quality in place and embed that in the processes, in the IT architecture. I think that people started realize that PIM and MDM are actually part of your AI stack, right? So these tools are now part of the AI stack instead of just things on the back end. And getting those processes right, making sure it's a scalable process and a repeatable process, not just a one-off data cleansing, is, I think, very, very important, and is more and more being appreciated by the industry. I still think that people would rather just keep the door closed to that basement with all the smelly, low quality data. But that you need to have a process in place and really start today, maybe next week, tomorrow, with that small test, that first division or business or product data category or data category that you start cleansing, and do that in a way that is scalable and basically testing the new approach that you want to use in the rest of the organization as well. Maybe Chris, do you have any closing thoughts, any tips for the audience?
Because what you say, PIM, MDM is becoming part of the stack. It's not always the case. So that's it's not yet. I think it's not yet a commodity. It still needs some work to do to get this in the mindset of a lot of C-level managers, I think, because the fixers are still there in the organization. So I should say, okay, try to have this overview of the organization, also the architectural overview, and see what is there, what can improve my processes, what can improve my way of working, and then PIM MDM is part of this. And on top of this, you can say, okay, where in which part of the processes can AI help me to speed up? Because there is a lot of repetitive work which can be done by AI. Start small, also in this sense, start small with small tasks which are predictable and improve.
Yeah. Frank, any closing thoughts for the audience?
I would say don't be AI first, but first AI. So AI first. We were data driven. We did digital transformation, and we got nice concept and ideas. But figure out where AI can assist you in your processes in your business, and just start with it, and start small and make sure there's added value for you. And one conclusion can be, maybe AI doesn't bring the value at this point for you yet. That's also a conclusion. It's not just because AI is being screamed off every rooftop that is something that would work for you as well. Eh?
Yeah, that's a good point. I would like to thank you guys for joining me today, and thank the audience for joining us as well. If you have any questions for Chris, for Frank, for me, you can definitely find us on LinkedIn, or you can find us on our different websites. It's pimvendors.com for us. Frank, it's intodata.com? No?
.nl.
.nl. So intodata.nl. We're going to cut this out of the recording, no worries. So check intodata.nl and check pimvendors.com if you want to learn more and get in touch. And I would say subscribe if you haven't already, and see you in the next episode. All right. Goodbye and have a good day.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.